David Cassidy. When the Partridge Family series premiered in 1970, David Cassidy became an instant teenage heartthrob. He played Keith, and David's real-life stepmother, Shirley Jones, played his TV mom. The music in the show was a big draw, and the cast began releasing recordings of their own. They had 10 albums in all. David cut 8 solo albums and 17 singles. David also had a fan club bigger than the Beatles. His picture was plastered all over teen magazines, lunchboxes, and bubblegum cards. By the time David was 21, he had made $1 million. David was born 41 years ago in New Jersey. His parents, Jack Cassidy and Evelyn Ward, were both actors. They divorced when David was 4. His dad then married actress Shirley Jones. Jack Cassidy died tragically in a fire in 1976. David says he and his dad were never close, but he does attribute his love of acting to his father.
The Judgment of Manitou by Daniel Partridge. I like the title. Just plagiarize Hemingway, don't rewrite it.
But the pressure of too much success soon took its toll. When the series was canceled in 1974, David did a world tour and then dropped out of sight. He said he would never perform again. David did perform again, but he never found the same success he had with his Partridge Family. 2 years ago, David hit the comeback trail once again with a new album and a top 20 hit. But before the singles could be released, his record company went under, leaving David stuck with a good product and no promotion. So David took things into his own hands and visited radio stations around the country asking for airplay. Now he has just finished another tour and is back home with his third wife, Sue Schifrin, and their new baby. Sue is also a songwriter, and in their spare time, they do write music together. Our correspondent Sandy Newton spoke with David about the long road back to stardom.
Why did you leave, and then why did you come back?
Well, okay, for me to explain to you why I left, I'd have to go back and give you the background of 5 years of 18 hours a day, perpetuating a persona and an image through television, the character I was playing, all of the marketing and merchandising, the kind of hysteria that surrounded me at that time, the kind of loss of my own self and loss of my own real identity. I wasn't that guy I played on television. I acted the part. Mm-hmm. And when I went out, because there was everything out there to support that being so. Mm-hmm. Well, David Cassidy must be that guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I see him. He's on the back of cereal boxes. He must be that guy. You know, eat your Wheaties. Wake up like me.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a breakdown almost?
Yeah, I did. There was a volcanic eruption about to take place in me emotionally. And just about the time I decided to hang it up at the end of this big tour I did where I was playing stadiums, and I played the biggest places in the world. And there was pandemonium, 40, 50, 60,000 people. Each place, you know, they didn't review me any longer. They reviewed how many people got crushed, passed out, got treated for hysteria and exhaustion and fainting and all of that. So I was no longer, it wasn't a guy up there singing. It was the event. The event was far bigger than I was. And you got to stop that. In the end, you got to go, I can't do this anymore.
What did your family say? David, you're being a little radical?
I think what you have to understand is my lifestyle at the time was so, they had to make appointments to see me. It sounds bizarre, but if you look at somebody who works from 6 till midnight, and you have to be on, not show up, not like show up, but be on. You have to perform. You have to show up on the television set and know your lines, do your scenes all day long. And then you have to go to the recording studio all night long and be there.
And how old were you?
I started at 19. It took 6 months to get me my first job, and from then I never stopped working.
Now, a lot of people during the 70s, which was, as you said, your heyday, depended a lot on drugs, alcohol, to get them through those incredible...
I never could have made it. I'll tell you what, I couldn't drink. I couldn't have one sip. When you work that kind of a schedule, if you're that far off, you're finished. I didn't have lunch times. I would spend my lunch times doing interviews, photo sessions, doing that kind of thing. Perpetuating the business of David Cassidy so that the human being, the person, was lost and desperately screaming to have a life. And after 5 years of that, I was really angry. The guy inside was really angry. And it was almost like, well, everybody else got to go to school, got to go to college and hang out, drink beer, get laid, do what they wanted to do. And I spent my time being an adult. You don't realize just how different it is to be that famous and how your life changes so dramatically.
There was a couple of marriages, or a marriage.
A marriage. Well, both of us, I think. My first wife and I, who's she's a really fine person and someone who I haven't seen in a lot of years. We both lost our fathers about a year before, and that put me sort of in a deeper funk. I felt abandoned by him when I was a kid. He left, and like a lot of children, I think what we really want in most in life is for him to put his arm around you and say, "Good work, son." I think there was underneath it, a lot of jealousy. And that was a problem for me. Because the more successful and more famous I became, the less he wanted to hang out with me. I became sort of resentful of my fame and success because it was pushing me away from him. So that, compounded with everything else, really spun me into a heavy funk. And I needed to stay away from it. I needed to leave it in order for me to start all over again, which is what I decided I had to do.
Let's talk about your wife, Sue, your baby. They say that behind every successful person, there's a successful partner.
No question about it.
True in your case?
Oh, yeah. She really got me to take a really hard look at myself. And I think there was such a wall around me. She really helped me thaw out. And I think her alone, the thought of me losing that in her, at one point, it got me to go back into analysis, and that really changed my life. She has been my best friend. When you have a child with someone that you have that connection with, it becomes really extraordinary, the bond that is created between the three of us. It's a very nurturing environment for all of us. It's made the whole thing complete. I feel like a complete person now.
One last question then. Where's David Cassidy going to be in 20 years?
Well, I was asked that question 20 years ago, where am I going to be in 10 or 20 years? And I said something like, I'll be living on an island with gray hair and a beard. I would hope that in 20 years from now that I'm still as interested and as creative as the last 4 or 5 years have been for me. I would hope so.
We'll check back with you.
Yeah, do.